Good afternoon.
Sir? So how many classes are there?
What?
How many class So today's class.
So today we will talk about portioning. What is portioning? So portioning of precipitates. Portioning of precipitates means you have size distribution of precipitates. What happens is many number of small particles change to small number of large particles. So your average particle radius, whether you write in some book Rm or R bar, those decreases. Right? Is it? No. Increases. And number
Decreases.
also decreases. Okay. Number decreases and
Number decreases and size increases.
yes. So portioning is that. So you have a size distribution of precipitates after certain time at the service during exposure of high temperature stress condition, the precipitate size distribution changes such a way that number of precipitates decreases and overall size increases. That's the portioning of precipitates. Whether is it desirable or not desirable? Usually it is not desirable because many times you want fine distribution of precipitates to have better strength. Precipitate will interact with the dislocations, will come and interact with the precipitate. It will not allow the dislocation to pass through easily. So you have to give more stress for the dislocation to go across the precipitate, either by bowing, forming a loop, or by cutting the precipitate, whatever it is. So effectively it increases strength. So you need fine distribution of precipitates. But portioning is doing exactly the different thing. It is coarse distribution of small number of precipitates. Your small number meaning interprecipitate distance also increases. So strength decreases. So creep strength, usually it happens at high temperature. So creep strength or the strength decreases. So whatever, say you have designed a material which is giving very good strength and you were happy and put it in the service actual component, but because of precipitate portioning, the strength decreased during service. So it may fail because of portioning itself. And also, many a times precipitates are used to pin the grain boundaries. If precipitate portioning happens, that pinning effect also goes away and the grain boundaries are now free to grow, and then grain growth also happens, which is also undesirable. So somehow most of the times you do not want portioning, but portioning is a natural phenomenon. Because what is the driving force for portioning? Why portioning is a natural phenomenon spontaneously happens?
Reduction of surface volume.
Precipitate portioning we are talking of, so do not talk about grain boundary. It's the interfacial energy. So total interfacial energy decreases. Minimization of that will lead to portioning. And we know Gibbs-Thompson effect. If there is curvature effect of curvature on the equilibrium solute concentration of the matrix in equilibrium with the precipitate. If there is a radius of curvature is small, then the Gibbs free energy increases and the equilibrium
Composition change.
composition. Say, this is the composition of alpha and this is your beta. So beta of radius of curvature say infinity is this one. That is the equilibrium phase diagram. Not phase diagram. Gives free energy versus composition. So if there is a small particle, then this gives free energy of precipitate beta will go from here to here. So R is some finite value. It's not infinite. It's not flat precipitate. So radius of curvature. So common tangent gives the equilibrium concentration of equilibrium composition of alpha, which is in equilibrium with beta, but for a small precipitate, that common tangent gives to some other, so it touches the curve at some other value which is more. So this increases. Okay, so composition around the small precipitate, it is high. Okay, compared to the far away. Okay, there is a composition profile that is maintained. So that means again for whoever came late, for them that today's topic is coarsening of precipitates. That's what we are discussing. So if there is a small particle, if there is a big particle, then the concentration of alpha, say both are beta, but the radius is different. So concentration of the matrix alpha composition here and here, where it will be more? So smaller the radius, it will be even higher. So this concentration increase will be more small for smaller precipitate. So it is concentration is high here and concentration is low here. Okay, so you can either concentration or you can think of what is this value? What is this value? This is chemical potential of B. If it is B, if it is A, chemical potential of this component, right? So chemical potential keeps on increasing if the size is low. If R is low, then mu increases. And mu is related to activity, so activity increases. So activity here, say this radius is R1, this radius is say R2. So R2 greater than R1, your activity so it will be this or this or equal. Tell me, activity in of the component in alpha here just outside in the matrix, thus which is in equilibrium with the precipitate of radius R1. Huh? So A1 should be higher. That's what we found out. Mu is higher. Mu goes high for the smaller radius. So mu is proportional to A. So actually A1 is higher. Okay, and in the range of A1 and A2, if the activity coefficient is constant, then we can assume to be this C1 means if A1 and A2, if we can assume concentration also, then the concentration here is lower. So there is a driving force. This A1 is high. So A1 is high and A2 is small. So you can think of the other way that it is easy to remember the way I was saying in the last class that a fat guy in front of him, the plate will be, if you give plate full of food to a fat guy and a thin guy cannot eat, so it will, in front of him it will remain more food, but he will eat, so it will be less here. So there is a driving force from this to this. The atoms will move from here to here. Say dn moles of atom that if that moves, then free energy change due to transport of dn moles of solute, which is moving from this to this. Free energy change will be given by dn multiplied by RT ln A2 over A1. That is the free energy change while moving of dn moles of solute. So 1 mole of solute if moves, then RT ln A2 over A1 dn moles this, and this will actually change the surface area of both. Okay, so this should be equal to gamma ds2 minus ds1, where S is the surface area. S is the surface area. If it is a spherical particle, 4 pi r square. Okay, so ds equal to 8 pi r dr. So if your because of dn mole of solute has moved from here to here, and if molar volume is Vm, the volume that has moved, volume of solute that has moved is number of moles multiplied by molar volume. So Vm. So Vm multiplied by dn moles of solute that has moved from here to here, that has actually caused the, it should be equal to dV1 and it should be equal to dV2. So dV2 is positive, dV1 is negative. Where V1, V2 are volume of the particle 1 and particle 2. And V1 is 4/3, V is 4/3 pi r cube. So it should be equal to 4/3. So dV will be 4 pi r square here. So 4 pi r1 square dr1 should be equal to 4 pi r2 square dr2. So R1 dr1 is in terms of Vm dn divided by 4 pi r1.
The R1 square dr.
Similarly, R2 dr2 equal to Vm dn by 4 pi r2. Why we need R1 R2? Because our ds contains R dr. So write it on the board. We have this gamma ds2 minus ds1, gamma ds2 minus ds1 equal to 8 pi gamma r2 dr2 minus r1 dr1, 8 pi gamma R2 dr2 is Vm dn divided by 4 pi R2 minus Vm dn divided by 4 pi R1. So 2 gamma Vm dn within bracket 1 minus 1 over R2 minus 1 over R1. That should be equal to our dn times RT ln A2 over A1. From here, guys, submit. There's gamma ds2 minus ds1 is this one. That's what I am just equating. Okay, so you are dn will be cancelled out. So you will have RT ln A2 over A1 2 molar volume gamma within bracket 1 over R2 minus 1 over R1. So this is one equation that is relating the activities in matrix which is in equilibrium with different size precipitates with their size. This equation is relating that, and
Sir, A1 and A2 are the activity of the surrounding or the precipitate?
no, it's not of precipitate, it is outside.
Adjacent layer.
Huh?
Adjacent layer.
Adjacent to the precipitate in the matrix. Activity of the solute in the matrix outside the precipitate in the matrix. That's why I am saying that in the plate outside me, the food for a bigger particle already consumed, so less food there. So less activity, less concentration is there. It will be, but for a smaller guy, he cannot eat so much, so in front of him the plate is full. So activity is more, concentration is more. There is an activity gradient, concentration gradient, which is driving this solute to transport from here to here, and that will make this much gives me energy change, which should be equal to the interfacial energy change. Actually, interfacial energy is assumed to be constant, not varying with the radius of curvature of the precipitate gamma, but the surface area is changing ds for the particles. Okay, by equating those two, we are getting this. And changing activity with size is very small. So A1, A2 difference is very small. In that change, is you can assume that A1 over A2 in that so activity coefficient you can assume it to be constant in that range. So A1 over A2 equals to C1 over C2. You can take that. So RT ln C2 over C1. What is C2 and C1? The concentration of the solute in the matrix in equilibrium with the particular precipitate of that size. Equal to 2 Vm 2 gamma Dn 1 over R2 minus 1 over R1. So these equations are called Thomson not P, there is no P, Thomson. H-O-M-S-O-N. Freundlich equation. Freundlich. These equations can further be simplified by the following method that I am going to. Can I erase this part? So these equations relate the solubility of the precipitate or the equilibrium composition of matrix in equilibrium with a particular size precipitate, how it is related to the size of the precipitate. So these equations talk about that. It can be further simplified if you consider there is a special case if say R2 tends to infinity, that is radius of curvature of the second particle is very very high, that means it's a flat precipitate if you can assume. So for a flat precipitate R2 tends to infinity, and you can also assume that this because of change of the curvature, because of this curvature change, this C2 by C1 is not very different. C2 and C1 is not very different. There is some change, but it's very small, small fraction. Means the change is small fraction. Delta C over C is very small. And in that case, you can rewrite this ln C2 over C1. And if I take 2 as C2, that is the second particle of infinite size, R2 tends to infinity, I can write ln C infinity by C1 minus ln C1 over C infinity, or I can write minus ln 1 plus C1 minus C infinity over C infinity. The C1 minus C infinity, it is the change of, this is the C infinity is nothing but the whatever the equilibrium phase diagram gives. That composition of alpha. C alpha as per phase diagram. That is the C infinity. And because of a particular size that has changed to C1. C1 is greater than C infinity. What I am saying is C1 over this change is very small with respect to C1 or with respect to equilibrium composition. This change is very small. It's very small. It's very small. If it is very small, then you know that expansion of ln 1 plus x, where x is very small, can be written as x minus x square over 2 plus x cube over 3 dot 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 when x is very very small. So I can write this. So this is our x. This is our x. So I can write, ignoring the higher order term, minus of
C1 minus C infinity.
C1 minus C infinity over C infinity. Yes?